Today, I'm talking about a topic that is the most timely one that I can think of at the moment, and that is for our region and for our whole eastern United States that has been impacted by Hurricane Helene. So we're talking today about top tips for conserving water in an emergency. Hi, it's Lori from Ridgehaven Homestead. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. This has been a super important topic for our area, and I have come across some really good tips that people have shared, and so I wanted to consolidate them into one area just to make it easier and to look back on for when we need it. And so I am also going to make this list, type it up. I'm going to include this in a blog article. So if you learn best by the written, typed out word, it'll be there on my blog at ridgehavenhomestead.com. So let's dive in. Actually, before we dive in, let me just give you a little bit of history why I decided to share this topic today. In our region, and as probably your region as well, Hurricane Helene whipped through. We are not on the coast. We are quite a ways inland in Upper East Tennessee. My hometown is Greeneville, and we actually happen to live in Bulls Gap, which is just on the outskirts. But I have family in Greeneville, and all of our friends and my husband's work is all out of Greeneville. We do most everything there. As a part of the process of the hurricane coming through, and even the days leading up to it, our main river got flooded. The pictures that I'm going to be sharing and the video clips are not mine. They have been publicly shared on Facebook. I just wanted to share them here so that you could get kind of a picture of what we've been going through. The Nolichucky, the waters rose, record crest. I just want to jump in here and interrupt and tell you that this video and probably my next couple videos, whatever I can manage to crank out, they will be largely unedited, pretty much raw footage, because I don't have internet and our service is so slow. I'm actually in town now, but I don't really have time to edit the video and stay in town and do all this stuff, so it'll probably just be what I can do in a very simple way. Thanks. And it just started overflowing and taking out bridges. Long story short, we just have like so many of the bridges in our county that have been wiped out, creating this side and that side, the north and the south end of Greeneville, where many people were literally stuck and stranded on the south side for a while, more than probably more than 2 days. They were stuck on the south side with no way to get through. And so the bridges failing and the bridges being compromised and the dam being compromised led to lots and lots of damage to people's houses and to the landscape, and just created a really a disaster on our road. Watching the power crew with a bucket truck and the other equipment, and they are actually working on restoring power to our road, which I'm really glad for our neighbors, because that will help get them back in the game. They can get water and so forth. So let me get back to the story of what happened in Greeneville and actually Greene County. The biggest thing, there were two biggest things that occurred: the bridges collapsing, and that damage creating this side and that side, and cutting people off from supplies. That was very tragic and very dangerous and a really bad situation. And then the next thing that happened was, while some of those bridges were being taken out, pieces of the bridge and the rushing water and all the debris that was washing down the Nolichucky River, it actually took out the intake station. It destroyed a 5-story building. And so the intake station for the water treatment plant has been destroyed. And so that has left thousands of people out of water and with no water for the foreseeable future. And so that has created some panic, and also just a lot of problems, especially for people who are sick and infirm, and plus all of the storm damage already occurring, and then the entire county, except for those that have wells, are experiencing no water. And so they used up what was in the tanks, and that ran out yesterday, more than 24 hours ago. And so that leaves a lot of people, they knew that it was coming, but there wasn't a lot that they could do. And so the county and the city have been doing really great trying to do their best to get a pump. They actually had to obtain 4 different pumps to try to restore this temporary solution so that people can start getting water again. But they're saying it's going to be at least the end of the week. This is Monday. It's going to be at least the end of the week to get that going, because they have to fit pipes, etc., etc. And so they've been really doing well with passing out water, trying to get people, drinking water and water for other needs. And I will say that even though this terrible catastrophe has happened in our area, there are other areas of the country that are hit even worse. But we are a disaster, and it is definitely impacting our whole region. Anyway, I wasn't planning to come on here and do like a little news briefing, but this kind of gets you up to date on where we are today. They've been inspecting the bridges. They have deemed some of them that they thought were completely destroyed, maybe fixable, and there are some that they were hoping that they could fix, and they have deemed those unsafe even for pedestrians. So it is definitely a serious situation. And so this is a topic for all of us. This is a topic for people who live off grid, a topic for people who live on the grid. At one time or another, you and I are all going to experience an emergency that interrupts our water supply and our power supply. And chances are very, very high that if the power supply is interrupted at any place, the water supply is going to be compromised, because most people, even if you're on a well, your well is dependent on electric power to get that water out. Yeah, this is a very timely topic, and so I would like to share the information that I have gleaned, information that we have experienced over our last 6 years living off the grid. Our first 3 years at least, we spent doing water catchment, and we had to be very, very careful to use water very wisely. We didn't just turn on the tap and just let it flow out while the water turned hot. We had to catch everything, because everything was very precious. One raindrop at a time is what we had to do. And so we learned a lot of things. I feel like we got pretty good at reducing our water consumption, and we've learned a few things along the way. And I'm also very impressed with our community here locally, because the things that they have shared for this emergency have been very pertinent. And so I've tried to incorporate some of those things into what I'm going to share with you today. Sorry for the very long explanation, but I feel like it's really important to give you an update on, because I have had some of my I want to say blog readers, but some of my viewers asking me, how are we? And I've had family from around the country asking how we are. And I will say that we could be a lot worse. Honestly, our supply hasn't been changed that much, because we have gotten really used to living off grid. And so we've done a lot of tweaking over the years. And so, yeah, we have had some interruptions, and we have had to rethink some things, but it's not, I will say that we have not been affected as much as some people have been. I see some lights ahead, and I'm hoping that this is good news, which means they may be fixing the power on our road. And maybe when they restore the power, they'll restore the cable too, so I don't have to drive to town to get my connection. I'm stuck in the road, so I'm gonna have to move now, because it looks like the trucks are on the move. It does appear that we have some work going on with the power lines. That's good news. Okay, there were 5 power company trucks working to restore the power along this road, and I asked him about the internet cable, and that's such a whatever kind of luxury thing That's the only thing that has affected us. I really am glad that they're getting power restored to our road though, because everybody was out. So that'll be a blessing, because everybody here will be able to now get water and power and be able to do things life as normal. Okay, I just saw some of my neighbors who had waited alongside of the road because those trucks were blocking the way. So I had to tell them they better scoot so that they can get back on home before the workers have to get busy again. Okay, so let's talk about the top 3 areas for how we can use our water wisely, whether we are in a drought, whether we are in an emergency situation, or perhaps off-grid like we lived for so many years. There's lots of reasons why we should learn to reduce the consumption and use our water wisely. Okay, the top point is reducing our consumption. Now, one thing that I want to emphasize is, even when we are reducing our consumption of water, I always think it's a good idea to prioritize drinking water. We never want to get to the point where we are skimping on drinking water because we have to stay hydrated. If we cannot be sharp and keep our brains hydrated, then we are not going to be sharp to do all the other things that we have to do in a day. So that is definitely, if some little deer. Oh, it's triplets. Oh, how cute. Maybe you'll see them. I don't think you can see them. They're running away. There was some cute little deer running alongside the road, and oh, a little bitty bird. Okay. When we think about reducing our consumption of water, there are several really practical things that we can do. First of all, I like to think about the food. We have to eat, and a lot of food that we prepare requires water. But when we're in a really tight situation, when we just don't know when the water is going to be restored, and we have to be really, really tight, then we can do several things. We can make one-pot meals where everything goes into the one pot, and that helps with the washing, like a goulash, rice and burger, or rice and beans, with things added to it, like your peppers and tomatoes. You can make spaghetti and save that water for something else. You can just think about things that are going to reduce not only your water consumption, but the consumption or the dirtying of your dishes, because then that will be a lot easier to clean up, and you can use less water for that. So in a time like this, we want to tap into the things that we can use, like disposables. Now, it's not most environmentally sound to always use disposables, but in a time like this, it's definitely okay to think about the things that you don't have to wash. Okay, lining your bowls with plastic is one way that was shared on a group, and I thought that was a pretty ingenious kind of thing. And you get bonus points if you can find a way to use that bag for something else before you toss it. In a time like this, it's okay to be a little bit more willing to throw things away. I think that there are just times when it's, we definitely prefer not having a lot of waste and disposable stuff, and so some of these things are hard to share because they do kind of require you to have more toss away stuff. But the problem here is the water, and so that's what we're focusing on. Okay, so you're reducing consumption of dishes so that there's less to wash. And the washing, we can utilize non-water ways of washing up. We can do a sponge bath, which takes minimal amounts of water, and we don't have to wash our hair every single day, even once a week if your hair's not super greasy, and if you're not in, super dirty occupations. You can get by possibly with washing your hair once a week, and so that, I have mastered washing all this hair in like a gallon of water, and it's not necessarily easy, but it definitely can be done. We can use non-washing things like hand sanitizer, baby wipes. If you have, sometimes in an emergency situation, you don't have the luxury of going out and purchasing supplies. But if you do have that luxury, or if you happen to have it at home because you just utilize this stuff, dry shampoo can be a really good way to reduce water because it doesn't take any water, doesn't make a mess, and it basically relies on something like cornstarch that you can work throughout your hair and then brush out, and it actually does really quite well in keeping your hair feeling clean and absorbing the oils. Most of the time the hair washing is to get the oils off your hair, and so there's a DIY dry shampoo that you can make. You can take cornstarch and you can either use it plain, or you can add a few drops of a nice smelling essential oil like an orange or possibly lavender. It just depends what you like. Rosemary is really good for your hair. You can add a couple drops and then work that through your hair, not a lot. Work it to the roots and then brush it out. You really have to brush it out. Now, I can't use dry shampoo. It's just too, I have too much curly hair. It just doesn't work. But my hair also tends to be dry, so that's not an issue. Bathe in a small amount of water. You can take a gallon. You can take a washcloth, or even better yet, since we have limited ways to wash these things, maybe you can get these things that they use at the hospital, which are like a giant baby wipe that can be really good for taking a sponge bath basically, and you can use just a small bowl of water to do your whole body. You can do it like they do in the Army or when you're camping. So just do a quick once over, face, trunk, limbs, and then double back for pits and privates, and you're done. And so you always want to save the dirtiest areas last because you want to wash the clean areas first. That just avoids contamination, and it'll be surprising how fresh you can feel after just even a sponge bath. And if you wonder how that is, just try going camping one time, or there's lots of things that we learned over the years that you can just use a tiny bit of water and be good. Again, baby wipes are your friends. Okay, in the area of clothing, since a lot of times, well, most of the time, if you are not able to get in to be able to do your laundry, designate a pair of work clothes that you keep in a certain area and just keep them, the outside is dirty, the inside is clean. Keep those, and so you can wear them day after day, and just until they're too dirty to not wear anymore. But every time you wear something, it doesn't have to be considered dirty. And then you can have another outfit maybe that you wear that is considered your clean outfit, but it's not. I mean, you can wear it a couple days if you don't get it dirty, and then when you are doing the dirty work, and I'm thinking of storm cleanup, I'm thinking of like my husband has tree work, that some things you just need dirty, grubby type clothing, but you don't have to, everything doesn't have to get super dirty. And so just saving the laundry will save water, and there will be a time when you'll probably have to bag it up and haul it into a laundromat in an adjacent town. Okay, we talked about reducing the consumption of our water, and that's probably the biggest area of wise water usage, especially in an emergency. But I would like to now talk to you about tapping into free water sources that may be in your area, because that can be a really smart way to get the things done that need to be done, and you're not putting a tax on any of the system. So free water that I can think of are things like in your hot water tank. If you turn they advised everybody turn off their hot water tank breaker because there wasn't going to be any water coming into the tanks. There is stored in your water tank 40 to 50 gallons, 40 to 60 gallons of water, and it doesn't have to be hot. So there is a spout on the bottom, so you can use that and use it judiciously. And that can, you can use that for many different things, and it's clean water. Also, if you have a dehumidifier, you can use the water in that. So that serves two purposes. You're getting the water out of the air and you're creating more water, and you can use that water for flushing the toilet and for other purposes. I probably wouldn't consume it because it is could be concentrating the toxins that are in your air. But for bathing and flushing, yes, it's fair game. Also, you can catch rainwater. We did this for many years, at least 3 years. We caught rainwater. And so you can put buckets out, you can put pails, trash cans, you can do a rainwater catchment system. There's many ways that you can do this. And if you do rainwater catchment, you may want to purify it, because it just depends on what you're catching it in and what it has. If it's come across your roof, there could be bird droppings. So look into how to purify the water. But all this water can be used for flushing the toilets, and that becomes a really big, important thing. So a swimming pool. If you know somebody who has a swimming pool, that's a lot of water that you can use for bathing. You can jump in there and take a bath. You can use it for flushing. You could even, that's a luxury that most people don't have. And so you could actually share that with other people if you have a swimming pool full of water. Now, a lot of times they say if you are going to be in a bad water situation, to fill up your bathtubs, fill up your sinks, fill up buckets and things. They did not advise that in this situation because everybody had to be using the same water source, and they just didn't want any one person to be taking more because that was using the water faster. So in some situations that's a very wise plan, and in others you have to think about other people, and are you taking more so that other people could have a little bit more. Also, don't overlook lakes, rivers, creeks, ponds, things like that can be collected in buckets, and they can be used for, again, flushing and for your needs like that. And if you happen to be in a drought, you can use that for watering gardens, you can use it for watering plants, lots of things you can do. Any water can be used for flushing your toilet, and it takes at least a gallon to flush your toilet. So you may use more water than you think. If you have a hose and you have a water source and you want to fill up something larger, you can use a siphoning system. You suck the air out and get it going, and then you can basically pump water into a larger container. And we have had to do that many times to get water into a holding tank or something like that. So don't overlook the siphoning and getting it to a larger tank, and then you can gravity feed it to where you want it. Okay, so reducing consumption, tapping into free water, and then recycling the water that you have. We can all recycle a little bit more, and I'm not talking about taking it to the recycling plant. I'm talking about using your water more than once. And how can we use our water more than once? Well, there's several different ways. We can, if we cook, say we cook spaghetti, and most of the time during this extreme water rationing, we are not going to be able to be cooking something that takes a lot of water like that. We're going to be cooking something like rice. It's going to absorb it all. But if we cooked noodles or something and we had a big pot of water, we can reuse that water. We can use it for flushing the toilets. We can let it cool and use it for our plants. I don't think we can bathe in it because it will be starchy, but just keep in mind, try to use the water more than once. If you are washing your hands, you can collect water in a bowl, and then you can use that for flushing the toilet, for whatever. There's lots of things you can do. We used to keep a basin or a bowl of water under our sink in whatever we were doing, rinsing vegetables, washing our hands, whatever. We would be catching it and not letting it go down the drain, and you would be really surprised at how much water you can get in a day that you can use for other purposes. And that becomes really important in a time like this. You are really going to want a source of water for flushing your toilet. Believe me, it is true. The very last thing that I want to talk to you about is if you have a source of water but you can't necessarily drink it, what are you going to do? Well, there's lots of things, and we learned in Pathfinders or Scouts, how to purify our water. There's filtration systems, there's purification methods. Probably the easiest and most accessible to most people in North America is going to be bleach. So you can take a gallon of water, and it depends on the concentration of your bleach, so you're going to want to look this up on the internet. But for instance, and please check my check my numbers. If you have 6% bleach, then you're going to need 8 drops per gallon. If you have 8.25% bleach, then you're going to need 6 drops per gallon. And you can do the math, divide it out if you're going to do a quart or a gallon. Most people are going to do at least a gallon. And what I would recommend is you can purify your water, put your drops in it, and then let it sit overnight if you can, because then that bleach can off gas and it's not going to taste so bleachy. And please do not buy bleach that has perfumes or colors or anything like that, because that you cannot purify your water with any of those things. It has to be straight bleach. You can also use iodine tablets, and that is something that you probably would want to get before, like if you're traveling, or if you're, just to keep on hand in your emergency bin. Iodine drops or tablets can purify water. A life straw or a UV water purifying mechanism, those are 2 very good things, and you can keep those with you for purifying water. I have heard that with a life straw you can take water just out of a river like this and purify it. I have not tested that. I have used water filtration systems like a carbon filter, and it was a good one. I used it on the Amazon River, and I think I kind of clogged it up because that water is pretty polluted. So make sure your filter is good for whatever you're filtering, because not all filters can filter out giardia and microorganisms. Just make sure that they meet what you are going to be filtering. And a lot of times it's best to filter clear water, even though you don't necessarily want to get muddy water and filter it, because it's just going to clog your filters. That said, we use a Berkey water filter all the time for all the water in our house that we drink. We go through about 5 gallons a day, and we even filter our well water. So that's a good system if you have it. You can scrub your filters down more frequently if you're doing something that has more sediment in it, and that is based on a carbon filter. Okay, if you don't have a filter and you don't have water purification or anything like that, you can boil your water. Now, there are some microorganisms that cannot be destroyed with boiling. So I would definitely try to find clean water. I wouldn't necessarily do river water unless it was a pinch. Now, I looked it up again because I was thinking 6 minutes for boiling water, and actually the recommendation is half of that. I would probably just do the full 6 minutes if it were me, because you're just overkill. And if you can do it, let's just say you have a pressure cooker and you can do it under pressure, I just feel like you're gonna be able to kill more germs with pressure, because like when you're canning, you can kill more germs like that. And you can, anyway, I would pressure cook it if it were me. Boiling at least a minute, up to 6. If you boil it and boil it, you're just going to be boiling things away. The disadvantages with boiling your water is if there's any chemicals in it, it will concentrate it. And so boiling will not remove chemicals. It will remove, it will kill bacteria and things like that. So just keep in mind, if you're downwind from a chemical plant, I wouldn't take the risk of that. We have talked about the 3 ways of using water wisely: by reducing consumption, tapping into free water, and recycling or using our water more than once. So I hope that wherever you are, you have water, or that you're able to get good water. Prioritize drinking water. You can wait on a bath. We don't want to wait for too long, but those things can wait a little bit. Make sure that you stay hydrated, get the water in your body, make sure that other people around you have water, and do what you can to reduce your consumption so that what water you have lasts as long as possible. And please be safe. We're praying for everyone who has been affected by these storms. If you don't mind, please pray. There's one man still missing, and they have not been able to locate him. He actually was swept away downstream, and we haven't been able to locate him. I say we, the people in town have not been able to locate him. Not even very far away, a hop, skip, and a jump away, there are many, many people who are lost and still not been able to be found. These waters have been very powerful, very dangerous, and the irony is the danger in one hand, but the necessity in the other hand. We need water, we just need it to be controlled. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you coming along. Please be safe, and God bless.